So the UFC fights under investigation after suspicious betting detected. Can you take us through the story here of Minner? And then the word leaked out, and it was his opponent took big money. Money poured in on the under prop as well with the rounds, and a guy entered the fight compromised, and it only lasted a minute. If you can take it away, please, and set it up.
Yeah, so if we, to use your search title, follow the money here, there was something going on. There was massive amounts of money that started flowing in at sports books, late to mid-afternoon on Saturday before this fight that started at about 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. People were betting the favorite, Shailan Nordandika. They were betting him to win. They were betting him to win in the first round by knockout, and they were betting the fight to go under 2.5 rounds. The fight starts. The underdog Minner comes out there and starts throwing kicks. He looks like he's maybe a little bit suspect on his knee. He goes down within a minute, and the fight is stopped. Knockout. Books got crushed. The really thing that surprised me here was the scope of how much money was able to get down. I mean, these were kind of lesser-known fighters. I had never heard of them before. And then when I started talking to people, there was upwards of, a dozen U.S. books that got hit. There was also this money spread into the offshore world and into the paperhead credit local shops. We're talking 6-figure payouts almost everywhere. Heard of some larger ones too. So there was some significant money that came down here, and people are suggesting, well, okay, was this just something that information got out that this fighter was compromised and people capitalized on it before the books, or is there something even more nefarious here and the fix was in?
Yeah. So my guess is then, David, based on what you just said, I mean, some of these books are not going to be taking like huge limits on a fight like this. So, I mean, if they're taking 6-figure losses, though, the news got out, and enough people knew enough to get down on that to create that big of a loss. Then
that's what I was thinking too. I was like, okay, so limits are going to be pretty small. This is an undercard. You're not going to be able to get that much down. But the more and more I talked, it was just incredible. And some guys, a little bit of a funny side note, some people attacked it and put it in parlays, right? And they tried to hide it, kind of what they were doing. And one bettor went through it and put some money line parlays with these bets on the fight, and they money line parlayed it to the Bills against the Jets, who of course lost. So that's a little bit of a little bit of karma there, but they went far beyond just straight bets. There was parlays involved here, and there were some big payouts.
I have questions about his team, right? And if you're compromised and you're injured, why are you stepping into the octagon? Yep. And then if you have a leg injury, why do you start off with a couple kicks?
That's one of the biggest questions I have. But these fighters, they get a purse for showing, right? They get, no matter what you show up, you get a purse, and then if you win, you get extra. So if you need the money, maybe you try to fight through an injury. But if you're legitimately going out there to compete and try to win, and you have a bad leg, the last thing I would be doing is coming out and throwing kicks. I would be trying to get to the ground as soon as possible and grapple, which is what this guy was known for too. So the strategy was a little bit odd as well.
A lot of layers to this. How about Minner's manager? Can you fill us in on that story and his background?
Yeah, one of his trainers, James Krause, is kind of a known sports bettor. He openly talks about his betting. He runs a popular podcast and a Discord channel that you could buy a subscription to, or he will give out his picks. And he is very open about it. And it's kind of unique because just a couple weeks ago, the UFC announced a policy that prohibits teams and fighters from betting on UFC. So we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. But James Krause is definitely a character in this story, and a lot of people are pointing fingers at him.
But also on October 17th, the new rule went in place, though, where UFC fighters and their teams no longer allowed to bet?
Correct. So we'll have to see how that played out. We don't have any proof of anything that James Krause or Minner placed any bets. We don't know that. But if that is against the rules, and we know for a long time that the fighters that were allowed to do that. Now, Nevada Gaming Control has a rule that it puts the onus on the sports books. They're supposed to be the ones. Hey, if you think somebody is fighting or is betting on a fight that they are involved in, then you are not supposed to take that wager. That's really difficult to do, right? We had that situation with Charles Barkley in the celebrity golf tournament.
Yes.
He bet on himself to finish in the top 75, and eventually Caesars had to rescind the bet because of that regulation put in place. So the books are not supposed to take bets, but how do you know? You're not going to know some trainer who you're not going to recognize and walks up to the window and does this. So it's very, very difficult to stop. And in terms of leaking out information, gosh, you don't even know if there is a legal issue with that. If you are a trainer and you know your fighter is compromised and you tell a couple of buddies about it, I'm not sure that's against the law. So it's going to be very difficult to try to check into and evaluate and prohibit from happening.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.